Good day everyone. I am Novijin Itom and today we will be discussing globalization and the fast food culture.
In this presentation, we're going to talk about the globalization of food and fast food globalization, nature of fast food culture in the Philippines, foreign influences on Filipino cuisine, impacts of the food globalization on Filipino cuisine, and then we will arrive with the conclusion.
First, let us discuss globalization and how does it affect our Filipino cuisines. Globalization is having a significant impact on food systems all over the world. Food systems are changing, leading to increased food availability and diversity. Though access to this food is far from universal, food availability and access are impacted by the changes in food production, distribution networks, as well as the food trade environment. As a result of these changes in food systems, this causes a gradual shift in food culture. Filipino food represents the Philippines' diverse cultural background. It's a unique integral part of every Filipino culture that is tied to this. However, due to a variety of factors, the desire for the taste for foreign food has begun to dominate Filipino cuisines. As Filipinos have become more attracted to foreign ways, which results in the Filipinos having lost sight of their own culture. Due to globalization, our taste for our local cuisines is strongly dominated by foreign foods. Filipino cuisines are usually prepared in every household and social gatherings. Unlike now, a lot of varieties are being prepared in every social gathering. This results in a gradual shift in food and embracing other cultures. As we Filipinos have become more attracted to foreign ways, it results in the Filipinos having lost sight in their own culture. A Habermasian food discourse. Food culture is one of the factors to understand the identity of an existing society. Unfortunately, Filipino food has begun to be influenced by a variety of factors wherein the desire for foreign food has taken its place. As for Habermasian, the ultimate identification of a society depends on the participants of this society. This is embodied by various of cultural practices and cultural values. We are identified in a society based on our local practices. The colonization of the Filipino plate. Majority of the restaurants here in our country serves prominent foreign dishes, even on special occasions that are held at home. Unlike before, local cuisines are being served in every table, but nowadays, Filipino cuisines has been altered into foreign preference. Innovations of products, the catchy advertisements from these well-known brands easily attracts customers, especially the younger ones. This results in the detachment of the usual preparation of Filipino cuisines in every household, where meal preparation is a collaborative effort. This includes the actual dining where the members of the household eat together at a one dinner table. This type of meal preparation is slowly fading where Filipinos are slowly turning away from their native cuisines and increasing their appetite for foreign foods, which is slowly the result of globalization. Due to this result, the consequences is the detachment of the locals to their local cuisines and on how to prepare them. Cultural globalization. This refers to a specific idea that is reinforced by the internet, popular entertainment, that transcends local cultural traditions, lifestyles, and shapes people's perception. Cultural globalization is an experience of everyday life that is influenced by the diffusion of commodities and ideas that reflects a standardization of cultural expressions around the world. So these are the factors of cultural globalization. First is migration. Migration is one of the most visible and significant aspects of globalization. The increasing amount of people migrating to other countries looking for better employment and better lifestyle. Migration is usually seen as problematic, but it contributes to sustainable development of a country. Second is the food. Food is the most common example of cultural globalization, as food is part of every tradition and serves as an aspect of one's identity in a society. But due to globalization, the promotion of fast food culture leads to the detachment of local diets and eating culture. Next is the converging global consumption patterns. Majority of the cities around the world share the same consumption of experience where most of the people nowadays enjoy living a high consumption type of life. And lastly is the traditionalization. It is the consequence where people tend to lose sight of their own culture.
So what are the three H in globalization and how can we spot these H scenarios in a globalized world? So first scenario we have the heterogenization, which by definition is a process that leads to a more inwardly appealing world due to the excessive and continuous flaws across cultures. So we have here the keywords differentialism and cultures are dominant. So why differentialism? That is because cultures can enter or infiltrate our domain. They can mingle with our own culture, but they can never eradicate the original blueprint. They can enter, but they cannot devour and erase the original cultures in our ecosphere. So our own cultures remain dominant. Next H scenario is hybridization, which is different compared to the other two scenarios because it views globalization in a romantic sense. It theorizes that globalization is a creative movement that allows new cultural realities to exist and continues or even increases the heterogeneity in varying ecospheres. So we have here the clue words barriers are weak, hybrid cultures, and new ones must adopt. So yes, barriers still exist in this form of scenario, but they are much weaker compared to the heterogeneous one. And so cultures are free to interact, creating new hybridized ones. So external and internal flows meet to create new and unique hybridized cultures. So these hybridized cultures must adapt to the local ones in order to survive. So how can we further explain this scenario using actual things or events in our world? So let's say for example the McDonald's, which is a global restaurant chain. So there are many McDonald's franchises or branches scattered all over the world in different ecospheres having different cultures and different norms. So each McDonald's franchise in that specific area must create a specialized menu that would suit the taste of the people living there. So let's say for example the McDonald's branch here in the Philippines. So we actually have an exclusive menu, exclusive for us Filipinos, which is the cheesy egg dasal. So cheesy egg dasal is the go-to food for breakfast for us Filipinos, and that is only available here in the McDonald's franchise located in the Philippines. So cheesy egg dasal is actually a breakfast sandwich that features a fluffy folded egg with melted cheese in the middle and a soft toasted bun. So cheesy egg dasal only exists here in the Philippines, and the McDonald's franchises in different areas also contain or have their own specialized menu. So that is because of the hybridization scenario. The last H scenario would be the homogeneous one. So contrary to the heterogeneous scenario where cultures meet but the blueprint remains dominant, in the homogeneous theory, cultures are subject to many of the same global flaws and tend to grow more alike. So heterogeneous blueprint remains dominant, homogeneous, they tend to grow more alike. So we have the clue words here, the convergence, the cultural blending, and cultures are devoured. So compared to the heterogeneous, again, the cultures remain dominant, but in the homogeneous, the cultures are completely being devoured. So you can see this type of scenario in places or in ecospheres wherein their old traditions, their old cultures are slowly being erased because of the foreign influences. Now that we're done with that, let's talk about McDonaldization theory, which is actually the general idea of a worldwide homogenization through the effects of multicultural corporations. As you may have noticed, homogenization is mentioned in this theory, and this is due to the fact that McDonaldization is one of the concepts that help explain that 1H scenario. So McDonaldization is actually a phenomenon that occurs when a society, its institutions, and its organizations are adapted to have the same characteristics that are found in fast food chains. So these characteristics include efficiency, calculability, predictability, and control. So let's define these four characteristics. So first, efficiency. This is the effort to discover the best possible means to whatever end is desired. Calculability. Emphasis on quantity, often to the detriment of quality. Next is predictability. Things are pretty much the same from one geographic setting to another and from one time to another. And then for the last, the control, wherein technology comes to play as our world becomes more dependent on technologies on this current timeline. So in the food industry or in the globalization of the food sector, it should be noted that even though businesses make a franchise and adapt to the local culture norms, the core items used in making the products and the ones available for the consumers are generally the same or are uniform worldwide. So it is favorable to observe how these local and trans-local businesses operate using the standardized principles or the ones mentioned above.
And now, we will hop to it into our new topic of discussion, and this is all about nature of food, of fast food culture in the Philippines. I'm Cedric Anthony G. Banosa, your next reporter for today. Well, we Filipino enjoy eating, yet majority of us today find it too busy to prepare home-cooked meals. As a result, it is no surprise that many of us turn to quick service restaurants to quench our hunger for quick, tasty, satisfying, and economical meals. According to a recent survey by market research firm Clint, about 46% of Filipino eat at fast food restaurants 1 to 3 times per week on average, which is more than 2% who don't eat at such establishment at all. Yet, we Filipino are called Epicurean ones because most of us take particular pleasure in fine food and drinks. Philippines cuisine is distinguished by its bold combination of sweet, sour, and salty flavor, while other Asian cuisine may be known for more subtle delivery and presentation. Filipino cuisine is more often delivered all once in single presentation. Cooking and eating in the Philippines has traditionally been an informal, communal affair centered around the family kitchen. Homemade versus fast food. Which is better, homemade or fast food? This is one of the questions most of us ask and argue who is better and superior between the other one. Today, everyone is busy working in their respective jobs, so probably you won't find a hot meal in the kitchen every day. That's why most families eat out because they are tired and it's quick for them to do so. Well, today, I will tell you more about the similarities and difference between fast food meal and home-cooked meals. These that have you seen in the Venn diagram are one of the primary differences and similarities between homemade food and fast food. Homemade food have most likely fresher ingredients. Home-cooked meals can be made from fresh ingredients such as vegetables and fruit. When you're cooking at home, you know what's going inside your meals. You have freedom of choosing your own ingredients and choosing the product that will be used. You get the option of using fresh and organically grown vegetables and meat, which is the best of kind of a product to ensure your maximum health benefit. Also, it is more nutritious. There's no doubt about the fact that homemade food includes a lot of nutrients as compared to fast food. You buy fresh ingredients that are cut and cooked right before eating time, unlike in restaurants. You have the choice of using healthier ingredients that are high in nutrients and low in sodium and carbohydrate counts. Not only that you are blessing your body with better choice, but your family is also getting benefit from them. And lastly, it helps combat allergies. A lot of people are allergic to certain food ingredients, such as peanut or eggplant. Buying takeout meals can often have these hidden ingredients that you're completely unaware of. People often end up experiencing rashes, swelling, and readiness after eating food outside, and it's difficult to determine the cause. And the difference between fast food and homemade is that fast food is quick and fast. Fast food is more immediately and well faster to prepare and consume than home-cooked meals. Despite the health risk that comes with fast food consumption, people continue to eat it because many people have no time to select and prepare meals at home. It's also cheap. Fast food are usually very cheap as it's intentionally made to be available for all levels of income. Fast food items are one of the most affordable food products that you can find in the world today when you compare to its cost to the number of the calories that you receive. Lastly, it gives more calories. Even when consumers are trying to watch what they eat, dining at fast food restaurants can cause someone to underestimate their calories intake by over 20%. This data includes individuals who choose healthy items from menu and make conscious efforts to avoid trans fat, sugar, and sodium from the menu. The similarities between fast food and homemade food is that both delicious when shared alongside your family or friends together, and is also good for family bonding. The relationship between traditional food and international cuisine. As you have seen in the Venn diagram, traditional food depicts more deeper into its tradition and ethics because traditional food is where people connect their cultural or ethnic groups through food patterns. Food is often used as a means of retaining their cultural identity. This is the areas in which our culture was created and originated by our ancestors that was passed from generations to generations. Such as Filipino, the adobo is one of our traditional food that is marinated and stewed of any cut of meat or fish in a briny mixture of vinegar, soy sauce, and spices. While a global or international cuisine is a type of cuisine that is practiced around the world. It is a cuisine that has its characteristic style of cooking practices over tradition, and often associated with specific region, country, or culture. To become a global cuisine, a country or nation must spread its national and traditional cuisine around the world. There are only small differences between traditional food and international cuisine, and that is, international cuisine is more about how one cuisine is known or being popular throughout the world, since international cuisine is composed of different popular cuisine that represents their traditions and culture.
I am Jimandon P. Castillon, the next reporter, and the topic that I will report you today is all about foreign influences on Filipino cuisine. In the Philippines, there are many foods to choose from that will provide your palate with a variety of tastes. Many of these meals have been influenced by cuisines from other countries. This is owing to the fact that the Philippines has been frequented by traders and colonizers for millennia. The impact of American and Spanish invaders, as well as Chinese and other Southeast Asian traders, has resulted in a kaleidoscope of culinary styles in the Philippines. Why are fast food chains popular in the Philippines? Spread of fast food chains in the Philippines is one of the major changes in the food business. If one were to take a brief tour through the important location of Metro Manila and provinces, the odds of avoiding passing by a single fast food branch are nearly impossible. In fact, the fast food subsector accounts for 80% of fast food chains in the country. However, research into the history of the fast food industry reveals that the word fast food was first used in the Philippines in the 1980s. It is claimed that there were few family dining establishments at the majority catering to the middle class families. There are three examples of foreign influences on Filipino cuisine: Spanish, American, and Chinese. Spanish influence on Filipino cuisine. How Spanish colonization influences Filipino cuisine. Spain, which governed the Philippines for about 400 years, has had the greatest gastronomic influence. According to the food historian, Spanish cuisine is responsible for 80% of the Philippines because the Spaniards were the ruling class, upper class Filipino embraced Spanish-inspired foods. Around 80% of the food cooked in modern Filipino food kitchens may be traced back to Spain. Tomatoes and garlic, as well as the technique of sauteing them with onions and olive oil, were introduced by Spaniards, add in popular baked goods and desserts such as pandesal, a crusty dinner roll, flan, an egg custard, ensaymada, cheese buns, rice dishes such as arroz valenciana or arroz con pollo, and so on. The majority of Spanish recipes had been altered to accommodate the ingredients that were easily available. As a result, Filipinos developed their own cuisine, which was tailored to their preferences. American influence on Filipino cuisine. How American colonization influences Filipino cuisine. By 1890, the Spanish-American War had broken out, and the Philippines, along with the rest of Spain's possessions, had become American territories. Potato and macaroni salads, baked fruit pie, and more recently, fast cuisine like hamburgers, French fries, and pizza were introduced to Filipinos. Filipinos were introduced canned products. In the aftermath of the World War II, fruit salad was created by combining canned fruits, drained, and chunks of langka, jackfruit, Nestle cream, and condensed milk, and cream cheese, serving chilled. Chinese influence on Filipino cuisine. How Chinese colonization influenced Filipino cuisine. Around 300 AD, Chinese traders sailed across the South China Sea, and by the year 1000, trading was taking place on a regular basis with the Chinese coast ports and colonies. They had made their way inland by 1400 and had established themselves as a part of the Philippines civilization. The influence on Filipino cuisine may be seen in noodles dishes like pancit, steamed dumplings like siopaw, siomai, and pancit molo. The noodle meals known as pancit like bihon, miki, sotanghon, mami, lumi, miswa have a strong Chinese influence. Pancitterias, another Spanish word for noodle restaurants, is a term that usually refers to a Chinese restaurant. When Filipinos order Chinese food, they choose pancit canton and lumpia Shanghai, small spring rolls filled with the minced meat and dipped in a sweet sauce.
Good day, everyone. I'm Glasime D. Panas, the next reporter for the next topic titled Impacts of Fast Food Globalization on Filipino Cuisine. Globalization is the greatest significant shift in human history, yet most of us are unaware of the benefits and challenges it brings in our daily lives, especially in food industry. Due to technological advances and significant economic liberalization, most developing countries, such as Philippines, receive considerable impacts on its food business. Even though globalization helps make daily life easier by providing us a simple approach to a wide variety of cuisines or having access to new trends started by other countries half a world away, it does provide issues as businesses begin to grow and extend internationally. Based on a case study by Corina Hawks, globalization changes the character of the food supply chain, thereby influencing the availability, quality, pricing, and desirability of foods in the market. Because of this, there is a growing population, which means higher food demands, as well as the negative effects of environmental degradation, climate change, water scarcity, biodiversity loss, conflict, and socio-economic inequity. The world is seeing a never-before-seen combination of socio-economic, environmental, and political stresses. And Philippines, being a nation-state and a developing country, is inevitably affected. Globalization in the food business has also impacted the culture of most Filipinos, resulting in obesity among children and adults as it does in other developing countries. For example, the National Statistics Coordination Board reported that 26.6% of Filipino people were obese in fiscal year 2008. Since 1993, this figure has risen by 10%. This is because of the emergence of fast and processed foods, a kind of foods that have been tampered with by adding chemical additives and other preservatives that could be hazardous to human health. Cultural change of Filipino cuisine. The rise of the fast food culture in the Philippines is accelerating due to the accessibility and convenience of acquiring cheap foreign foods. This is when countless countries have successfully spawned numerous familiar restaurant chains around the Philippines, including McDonald's, KFC, and Burger King. Traditional cooking is becoming less popular among the youth as the new generation of millennials prefers this to spending time at home cooking. However, fast food convenience affects not only Filipinos' culinary preferences, but also other aspects of their lives, such as social gatherings. A traditional birthday celebration, for example, comprises going to church, then eating homemade delicacies with cakes and playing games. Nowadays, people choose to spend their birthdays outside, eating fast food in McDonald's, KFC, and Burger Kings, and any other fast food restaurants. It is unavoidable for a foreign culture to leave its stamp in a new place, especially when it is plentiful. Due to circulating social media trends, many multinational restaurants, such as Korean milk tea shops, American coffee shops, and Italian pizza houses, have made their way into the Filipino community. As a result, Filipinos have developed an interest not just in their traditional dining methods, but also in these new cosmopolitan dishes. The Philippines as bridge of cultural cuisine. The Philippines' history has been shaped by colonialism. The Spanish were the first to introduce their culture to us, followed by the Chinese and then Americans. Because of this, the Philippines became a bridge to cultural cuisine. Indigenous Filipinos adapted their foreign recipes to accommodate the ingredients that were readily available to them and to adapt to their tastes, resulting in the birth of a cuisine that Filipinos dubbed their own. However, these foreign countries not only influence how Filipinos prepare food today, but they also influence dining options by bringing chain restaurants and international cuisine. Fast food then has become a popular option for a family meal.